Let's do this.
Joel's Internet Show. Joel's Internet Show.
Alright, we are back. What's up? Joel's Internet Show 2020. Now, there's a lot of Iran talk going on, and
A very
got a couple
tense
links
start to
pulled
this
up.
new year, as tonight American B-52 bombers are now on the move, and thousands of U.S. troops are being deployed to the Middle East as Iran now vows revenge.
This was from
It all
yesterday.
comes, of course, after the death of Iran's top military commander in a U.S. drone strike, and these are the images tonight. Millions in mourning in the street, the funeral procession in Tehran today. Angry and emotional messages from the Iranian people for the U.S., Iran's supreme leader weeping at the funeral. Tonight, those calls for revenge and chants in Iran's parliament of death to America. Iran effectively now pulling out of the nuclear deal. Tonight, President Trump vowing to answer any retaliation with force. The president speaking of 52 Iranian sites, including sites of cultural significance. And thousands of U.S. troops, many already arriving in the Middle East. You will hear from nervous families right here at home.
Coffin
ABC's
at
Chief
Tehran
Global Affairs
University on
correspondent
Monday.
Martha Raddatz
Then
leads
it
us
was
off
taken
from
to Qom and
inside
finally
Iran
to
tonight.
his hometown of Kerman this morning. Now, the stampede that occurred delayed the burial service, and we're hearing now that it will be taking place shortly because really, under the proper procedures, it should be buried as quickly as possible. But the state-like procession of this funeral service that's gone on for 4 days now must really come to an end. People want to be able to mourn him and move on. For the next 40 days, they will be marking his death. So we're hearing now that the burial will be taking place shortly in Kerman.
Dorsa, many thanks indeed. Dorsa Jabari there live in Tehran. Well, Iraqis in Basra have held a funeral procession for the paramilitary leader Abu Mahdi al-Mohandis, who was killed alongside Soleimani in Friday's airstrike. Mohandis was the deputy commander of the Iranian-backed Popular Mobilization Forces, whose fighters were involved in the siege on the U.S. embassy in Baghdad.
Iran promises that is coming. Over the weekend, a red flag symbolizing a declaration of war raised above a mosque. This morning, the Iranian government announcing they are suspending commitments to the 2015 nuclear deal President Trump walked away from months.
So, does that mean that Iran has officially declared war upon the U.S.? Has the U.S. officially declared war upon Iran?
Chanting death to America, officials saying retaliation would
think we will.
target the U.S. military.
I don't think we will.
President Trump warns that if there is retaliation, he has 52 Iranian targets in his sights. Some, he says, at a very high level and important to Iran and the
So
Iranian
Trump's already
culture.
he's already planning on taking
Targeting
people out.
cultural
He's
sites
like,
is
well,
considered a
yeah,
war
we could.
crime. Today, Iran's president firing back,
war crime.
tweeting, those who refer to the number 52 should also remember the number 290, the number of people killed when the U.S. accidentally shot down an Iranian passenger plane in the 80s. Rouhani's message to Trump, never threaten the Iranian nation.
So let's get right to Martha Raddatz, who's with us.
Towards Najaf in Karbala, he was chanting religious tones and saying, pledging to Qasem Soleimani and Abu Mahdi al-Mohandis that their blood will not go in vain. He is going to avenge them and their fight is going to continue. Now that his body has again gone from religious, Shia religious shrines from Iraq to Iran, is now back in Basra. It is going to move slowly from Basra to Najaf, where he will be buried. There have been a number of funerals and events held to mourn him, and people have been coming out in various parts. Although we're also hearing some reports of some protesters in Basra coming out against this, because as you've been hearing earlier, this is not an issue that the whole of Iraq stands behind. It is a divisive issue here in Iraq, the killing of Qasem Soleimani and the influence that Iran wields here in Iraq. Not everyone agrees that the foreign troops should leave, and not everyone sees that Iran as the driving force, as has been portrayed by the parliament and other members of militias in the lead up after Soleimani's death. So Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis will be buried in Najaf, and it was interesting to hear from the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo saying that it was an intel operation. Qasem Soleimani did not come to Iraq on a diplomatic mission, something that the Iraqi Prime Minister had insisted was the case, and Qasem Soleimani was going to meet him on Friday morning to discuss developments between Iran and Saudi Arabia.
And Osama, before we let you go, what's being made there of this withdrawal that wasn't by US forces, this letter which was sent in error?
Well, it was a few hours of confused jubilation, Adrian. We heard from various Iraqi officials, including the military as well as people in the government, who were very happy about this letter, confirming this letter to us, the contents of this letter. And then the statement came from Mark Esper. So there was moments of confusion, but there was a lot of air traffic.
Well, anyway, it's really troubling if we actually go to an actual declared war with Iran, that instead of just a proxy war. That could be tough. Remember when we went to war with Iraq and it seemed like we almost won the war on the first day, but then it just kept dragging on. It's like we conquered their military, but then we had to occupy for whatever reason. And a lot of people have been saying for a long time, before Obama even, that the whole plan was to basically take over the whole area where Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, and then finally the last one would be Iran. But I don't know. I mean, I'd love to hear what do the Russians think about this? What do the Chinese think about this? What do we think about this as a people? Like, do we want to be at war with Iran? Does Iran want to be at war with us? Seems like their leadership does. Sometimes I wonder if the leaders of the world are all working together and war is just theatrics where people get murdered. But I don't know. That's for you to decide.
But remember, so
See what
far
Thor's
you have
talking about.
survived 100% of your worst days. You are doing great, and it's always darkest before the dawn. Although it's a bit dark these days. Antonio
Checking
Beccola.
Australia.
Clear sky conditions allowed Sentinel-2 to capture some activity of the Fuego volcano today at 4:26 UTC. For more information, you can go to those links. Yeah, the volcanoes and earthquakes are active, and they will stay active. Speaking of governments not having a plan for volcanoes or earthquakes, it was reported today that all these fires, which erupted pretty much at the same times, were done by 200 separate arsonists who, I guess, synchronized their arson. Were like, let us all go all across Australia and set fires at the exact same time. Even though I had warned of Australia on our possible volcano eruption list and New Zealand, and remember, over here, 900 miles away, a volcano erupted. So, yeah, dude, I'm taking that with a grain of salt. We had some beautiful auroras last night in Lapland. Our sun is starting to wake up as we head towards solar maximum. We have sunspot AR2577, I believe. Looks like we got a second sunspot greening over on the horizon of the corona of the sun. And when these things popped off, so we have a
lightning fast blaze.
Out on the ground, and then it just came, so we just got back to the truck, activated the emergency sprays, and poured it in.
Further south, and thick, dry forest ignited along the Clyde River, surrounding Bateman's Bay. Those who hadn't evacuated told to seek shelter or get to the water.
Just pretty much banding together, mate, all of us as a group, and looking after each other.
An almost otherworldly glow overtook Narooma, a blood-orange haze in the usually bustling tourist haven. Inland in the small apple-growing town of Batlow, the fire tore down on homes, gas cylinders exploding at a local petrol station.
Everybody in this town is a hero.
everybody.
Over the border in Victoria couldn't escape, contending with a new Black Saturday. The skies over Malakoo's turning pitch black in the middle of the afternoon.
Very eerie and it's incredible, isn't it?
Relief as the first evacuees disembarked in Port Hastings after 20 hours at sea.
It's quite nice to be on solid ground again.
But frustration for others. Parents with young children and the elderly this morning still waiting for a chopper, yesterday unable to fly in thick smoke.
Louise is with spoken laryngitis, so he's sort of pretty croaky and pretty miserable today.
Residents in Omeo and Smiths Creek are luckier. 50 people flown out of bushfire zones by the AEF. Fierce blazes burning either side of the border will merge to create a mega blaze. In South Australia,
around the policy matter. And indeed, as the Secretary of State's defence, who has a significant number of assets in the region, in Iraq at the moment, and is charged with the duty of defending this country, the Prime Minister felt it was appropriate for me to attend to answer the questions in his place. I think we could perhaps answer some of the questions. What few questions were made by the Leader of the Opposition. First of all, it is for the United States to answer in detail to whether it views the intelligence it made its decision on, or whether illegal or not. From the information and intelligence that I have seen, what I could say is that it is clear there was a case for self-defense to be made by an individual who had come to Iraq to coordinate murder and attacks on US citizens. It begs the question, Mr. Speaker, what the Leader of the Opposition would do if that individual had come to Iraq or anywhere else to plot the murder of British soldiers and diplomats. Perhaps, like he recommended with al-Baghdadi of ISIS, he would seek to have him arrested at that particular moment in time.
Could be better.
It is, of course, the case that this government is engaged in a full diplomatic effort at all levels to seek to de-escalate the tensions that have grown in the region. Indeed, not only at the United Nations, but in leader-to-leader, defence sec and foreign sec, and all other levers we have, broader than just in the region, to seek efforts to make sure that both Iran does not retaliate in any way that would escalate the situation, and indeed that our friends and allies do not escalate the situation either. The call that this government is making is to make sure that we pause, that we focus on the safety of the peoples of that region and seek a way out, both for Iran and indeed for its neighbours. The first way we can do that, and this government is determined to try and do that, is make sure that the destabilising activity that has been going on in that region is ceased, so we can all progress to find a solution to the conflict that we desperately want. In the meantime, this government will get on and make sure it keeps people safe in the region, and we will do everything we can to protect them and their lives.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my right honourable friend for his statement. Thousands of Iraqi civilians, military personnel and cadets have lost their lives in Daesh-linked violence, many brutally executed.
In catastrophic conditions yesterday, we do know that properties have been lost, but the RFS say it is simply too early to tell exactly how many. And that's the goal for them today, taking advantage of the cooler, calmer conditions. They're going to send in teams. They're going to send in teams to assess that damage, as well as set up containment lines to try and make today that little bit easier.
Montana, thank you.
Well, the people of Cooma have been on high alert for fires, but never imagined they'd be flooded when a reservoir burst, sending more than 1 million litres of water crashing down on homes. Tiffany Genders is across this tip. How did this happen?
Well, that's the $1 million question, Tracy. The people here at Molong Place are very keen to find out how this tank simply buckled, sending a torrent of water, mud and debris into their homes. It was just after 9 o'clock last night, and the residents here heard what they thought was thunder. The next thing, they were inundated. One house in particular bore the brunt of it. A husband, wife and their 2 little girls were inside when the doors ripped off and 1 million litres or more came crashing in.
I just seemed like thunder, and she just come down the hill there and flooded us. We thought we were going to get burned out. We got flooded. It blew back to us off the house, and we couldn't open the front doors to get the water out. Kids were flooding around the living room on couches.
An elderly woman in her 90s was rescued from knee-deep water in another house, okay, but is in hospital as a precaution. The clean-up here will be mammoth. Now, the reservoir was being used to filter Britain to help with these fires. Just how it burst is now subject to a big investigation.
All right, Tiffany, thank you. In Batemans Bay, power has been cut to more than 30,000 homes, with crews fearing the worst, unable to expect the extent of the damage. Let's go to Today reporter Lara Bella. And Lara, evacuation centres are overflowing there.
Yeah, Ali, this line at Batemans Bay, well, it's chock-a-block. There are hundreds of people who have called this place their home away from home. Once again, and understandably, they are absolutely exhausted. They're anxious, and right about now, they're also pretty desperate for fresh food, and fruit and vegetables, because things that you and I would normally take for granted, like bread, fresh milk, apples, broccoli, things like that, even diesel, they have become luxury commodities here because either the shops are sold out or the shops have been closed as a result of the fire threat. Now, overnight, only adding to these weary people's frustrations, the power in this area, in fact, to around 3,000 residents, has once again gone out.
Perfusions and studies around the side effects or side effects of the hepatitis B vaccination. And really, in 2009, it was a major turning point. Essentially, the French government ordered huge quantities of vaccine against the swine flu epidemic, and less than 10% of those vaccines were used. And so the government was seen as having massively over-ordered with public funds, and this raised questions about financial interests.
And skepticism against vaccinations is having very real consequences, not only around the world, but here in France.
as well.
Well, diseases that were believed to have been eradicated are developing once again. And researchers are really alarmed by this and in a way outraged, starting at the Pasteur Institute here in France.
Today, people are afraid of vaccinations, but they're not afraid of getting infected because they can't remember a time when these diseases were around. We don't catch them anymore thanks to vaccines. But all these diseases, and there are so many of them, will come back if we stop vaccinating.
And it's already starting to happen. For instance, the measles, which is our word du jour, it's called rougeole in French. The measles, which are an extremely contagious disease, well, it's been making a comeback in France in recent years. Let's take a look at the figures from 2018, which compares with the cases in Germany and the cases in France. You can see there are so many more cases in France, and there were 3 deaths in 2018 linked to the measles. Now, this is a cause of concern for medical authorities here in France.
I think it's important to remember that biology is dynamic, so there's changes in human DNA and like changes in the bacterial DNA over time, and when you do things like use antibacterial soap or vaccines for a long time, they may stop working. Certain bacteria or viruses might
there is no vaccination against conspiracy theories, but
evolve and
education and
change,
transparency
and
campaigns
or basically
because for now it remains a hot
what I mean
button
is
issue, a divisive issue, and there is
that
certainly
certain flu viruses that didn't die because of the vaccinations
Don't forget, if you have your own questions
will
about
survive,
France
and then
or the
those
French, you
ones
can
will
always
inherit
send us a tweet.
all the space that all the dead viruses have taken over. So, you know, that can happen. But also, what I'd like to see is just more options as far as vaccinations. A lot of people don't trust the companies that make the vaccines. They think they might be putting some toxins in the vaccines just because it makes sense financially and practically to do that, and perhaps that might be causing some health issues, but it's probably a smaller percentage of people that are affected by that, but it's still a concern. So, you know, we should look into those companies. We should be heavily regulating pharmaceutical and vaccine companies, and you know, I think we can find balance between good health choices and good economic choices.
It's odd to say that in this context with all these amazing creatures around, but he's actually an extremely simple guy, modest. And he's been doing this for 40 years.
Gautier's got an impressive CV.
I want to hear more about
He created the
Iran,
costumes for
honestly.
Luc Besson's Fifth Element, and his fashion freak show Cabaret was...
This guy's going off.
Rubber bands. I would rather be with my mother and fam in the motherland, but I gotta hustle up a couple grand. Still it's all love. I'm loving what I am. I love my fam, love my clan, love the land. Profits over people I will never understand. I wish our elders could reawaken me young again. Hug your grams, spread love and stop the hate. You can see similarities between the res and the trap. Yeah, there's cop traits in the hood. There's liquor stores at every corner. On the reservation, fire border waits at every border. When that liquor causes drama, fights, riots, and disorder. Plus domestic violence while your baby's crying from the torture. But whether you're on the res of the street, keep your head up and don't get caught up in a trap. That's a setup, somewhat of a miracle that we're still living. Listening to the rhythm of your drum and heal with it. Surviving genocide, no lies, I'm just being real with it. No surprise, the medicine wheel is still spinning. Minutes by minutes go by, figured we give up and die. But living indigenous tribes, giving them limited lives. Burying stereotypes, so we're prepared for the fight. Cherish and care for your life, take you through aerial flights. Watching the Hawks, the ship rock with boom bap, traditional medicinal hip hop.
You do have that, you know, political nature to what you're talking about, because I think a lot of what you rap about and a lot of what your songs about, you know, they, like you mentioned with like fracking and things like that, you know, you put those flavors in there. How important is music to changing politics or changing an issue or attacking an issue, or making people aware of an issue?
Could be
like,
disturbing
music to that?
The crust of our planet greatly. From what I've seen, it can cause earthquakes in the areas that they're doing the fracking. Just Coincidentally,
When you look
there's
at it, like the
usually
last song
minor
that you did for
earthquakes
us, like the
in
last
the
song that you
areas
did
that
for us,
fracking is
that's
going on,
such an enlightening song,
and
it's
just
such
the
a powerful
coincidence
song using the mix
is pretty crazy.
your
Let's see
heritage
what
and your people, as well as that drum beat and the
let's see what this guy has to say. I think I got it pulled up here.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. I've been down here in the new year yet. I want to just take a moment to send out my personal condolences to former Congressman Mike.
Might have to boost the signal here. Hold on.
He passed away early this week, leaving a lovely wife and a family. I want to express my condolences to him. His service to America was noble. As a member of Congress, we worked together on pro-life issues during my time in Congress.
They actually have.
Lots of you have questions about the Middle East and Iraq. I'll certainly take some questions today.
Left ear for some
But first,
reason.
I want to offer my condolences to the people of
No,
Australia
it's the left.
for the tragic loss of life and property caused by the devastating wildfires across that region. America's thoughts and prayers are with the victims, their families, and the emergency service personnel putting themselves in harm's way. And the same goes too for the dozens of U.S. firefighting personnel who are standing side by side with our Australian friends, fighting the flames together. As I said when I was in Sydney just this past summer, we have a truly unbreakable alliance. They are great friends, and we're happy to be able to help the Aussies in this time of need. Staying in Asia, we noted the appointment of Liu Huining as new head of the Hong Kong Chinese Central Government Liaison Office. He's expressed hopes that Hong Kong will return to the, quote, right path, end quote. The right path, as I've said before, is for the Chinese Communist Party to honor its commitments made to Hong Kong in the Sino-British Joint Declaration filed with the United Nations, a commitment that guarantees the territory's independent rule of law and freedoms that the Chinese living on the mainland unfortunately do not enjoy. That's it. We'll continue to work with Hong Kong and Chinese Communist Party officials to protect human rights and fundamental freedoms in Hong Kong and promote Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy. In Afghanistan, there's an aspect of that conflict that deserves more attention, and that is the Islamic Republic of Iran's involvement there. Iran has refused to join the regional and international consensus for peace, and is, in fact, today, actively working to undermine the peace process by continuing its long, global efforts to support militant groups there. Most people know about Iran's proxy networks in the Arab world, but the regime also has a relationship with the Taliban and related groups, such as the Haqqanis, the Bora Bora, and Mullah Abdullah group. The Taliban's entanglement in Iran's dirty work will only harm the Afghanistan peace process. A couple items here in the hemisphere. In Venezuela, I want to thank and congratulate Juan Guaido on his re-election as President of the Venezuelan National Assembly, a legitimate re-election by a quorum of 100 MPs. The Bureau regime's campaign of arrest, intimidation, and bribery could not derail Venezuelan democracy, nor could its use of military forces to physically bar the National Assembly from accessing the Parliament building. I applaud how Venezuela's political parties came together to support Guaido's re-election. The United States will continue to support President Guaido and the Venezuelan people, and we'll continue to rally all other freedom-loving nations across the globe to do that same thing. We support the Venezuelan people because we believe the Western Hemisphere should be a hemisphere with freedom everywhere. I also want to highlight the work of the OAS, which has been an instrumental tool in moving the region in that direction. It's an example of truly outstanding multilateralism. Secretary General Luis Almagro is the leader we need for the OAS to continue proactively addressing the central challenges facing the region, promoting democracy, upholding human rights, advancing security, and fostering economic development throughout it. I have more to say about the OAS and multilateral reform in the coming weeks. On the theme of basic freedoms, I want to commend members of Bahrain Council of Representatives for the January 2nd statement.
Is this guy going to talk about Iran?
The inhumane and painful ministerial on Iran that has just been scheduled. And it shows too, once again, our close cooperation with our European partners on issues of mutual concern. I'm sure while David's there, the issue of Iran and Iraq will feature prominently in their conversations, and they'll have an opportunity also to discuss priorities such as Syria, North Korea, and China as well. Finally, one more.
Oh, he's not.
I want to thank Ambassador John Bass, who I've come to know.
He's not going to talk about Iran?
You know, we don't comment on visa matters. Those traveling here to the United States on visa, so I can't add much more to this issue of foreign ministers' Reef's travel to the United States. I'll say only this. So we have recounted hundreds of thousands
of
Mexicans
saying anything.
Enormous
Let's see what the
Honourable friend, that isn't the issue here at stake. That Soleimani and his deputy were responsible already for vast attacks on our allies and on British citizens, leading to the loss of life and to the explosions that we saw in Saudi Arabia quite recently in the oil fields. So surely the point here that we want to make is not just that he may have posed a threat, he has already been
We'll have more
threat,
from the
and as a
Commons coming up
result
for you
of his
after the break
position,
at 4 o'clock.
Iran's policy has been to...
Yeah, they got bored. They couldn't watch the Parliament anymore. They were like, okay, we're done with Parliament. Ooh, I can't play this. It says in it. I can't. Wait, hold on. I can do this. No, I can't play it because they'll cut my audio feed. Like, you played a video that you weren't supposed to live.
Sustainability.
all right, where'd the news go? It's like, they're like, here, check out the weather for a minute. We need a minute. Whew. All right, Tokyo Live camera. Back to Al Jazeera. Check this out. Boom. Boom. Shit, it's about Facebook time. I think we might need to check out and see what's going on Facebook, because there's a lot of stuff. Reddit's not really doing it for me.
The one good thing about these
Zusammen, wir müssen mit den Unternehmen
of climate change.
Informed opinions.
The economy, I think, is actually what's keeping Donald Trump afloat right now.
Critical.
More ads. This is Tokyo Live. I love Tokyo Live. It's just this one shot, 24/7. Let's see what's going on with China. Right? It's weird how they have the audio from that camera. I love this guy. Everyone should definitely watch this guy's channel and subscribe to him and support him. China Uncensored.
The Party is great at spying on people. And not just inside China, but also in America. Welcome back to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. The Chinese Communist Party has an extensive network of spies, and over the last 2 decades, the party has rapidly developed its espionage tools. Shelley Zhang sat down with intelligence researcher Matt Brazil, co-author of Chinese Communist Espionage, an intelligence primer, to learn.
But he's not going to do another interview, is he?
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Brazil.
Oh, it's her again. I love her.
So, in your book, you say that Chinese espionage has now become like a global superpower. So, how scared should we be?
They're world class, and the reason we like to call them world class is that they have recently become equal in ability and reach to any other world class power in the United States.
But from the look at the history
Iran's
of
parliament
Chinese
designates
seems
US
like
forces
it wasn't really,
as
especially in terms of
terrorists
foreign intelligence.
and approves a massive budget boost to the Quds Force.
We get the latest.
Hello, I'm Adrian Finnegan. This is Al Jazeera live from Doha. Also coming up, Venezuela's opposition leader Juan Guaido enters parliament after a standoff with security who tried to block him. Women's activists slammed the Cypriot justice system after a British teenager is given a suspended sentence for making false accusations of rape. It's been another day of dramatic developments in Iran, where the burial of the top Iranian commander assassinated in a US airstrike on Friday has been delayed after at least 50 people were killed in a stampede during his funeral procession. Huge crowds had packed Qasem Soleimani's hometown of Kerman, and the congestion in the streets led to a crush of people. In the capital, meanwhile, Tehran, the parliament passed a bill designating the US Army and the Pentagon as terrorist organizations. It's also boosted the budget for the elite Quds Force that Soleimani commanded. Foreign Minister Javad Zarif has told Al Jazeera that the days of the US in the region are numbered.
Iran will respond because there was an act of war, combined with an act of terrorism against a senior official of the Islamic Republic of Iran and a citizen of Iran, and we are bound to protect our citizens. The act by the United States had other elements. It enraged the feelings of many people outside Iran, inside Iran. That will have consequences for the United States. And I believe the most important consequence is that the days of the United States in this region are numbered.
And the foreign ministers of Britain, France, Germany and Italy met in Brussels to discuss the fallout after Soleimani's killing. They're calling for restraint and a de-escalation of tension. Let's go live now to Tehran. Al Jazeera's Dorsa Jabari
competitively selected.
Dorsa,
these multi-year
talk us through
funded
what happened
campaigns
today in Kerman, resulting in the deaths of so many people.
Well,
What has been taking place is the coffin has been making its way through the streets of the various cities since it came back from Baghdad on Saturday. And it was finally going to be buried in Kerman, that is Qasem Soleimani's hometown. But the large crowds that gathered there just could not handle the security, and it got out of control, apparently. A number of people have died, over 50, and over 200 have been injured. We've heard from Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, who has expressed his condolences to the victims' families, and we understand that the burial will be taking place shortly now after about a 6-hour delay. The officials were trying to clear the crowds from the streets of this city in central Iran. Kerman is a relatively small city in central Iran. It's about home to 820,000 people, but the number of crowds that came out to bid their farewell to this general was just more than the authorities there were prepared for. We know that some of the victims came from as far away as the southern city of Bandar Abbas and Shiraz. So we know that the mourners weren't just from the area of Kerman in his hometown area. From all over the country, they gathered to bid farewell. Earlier as well, the Parliament passed some important legislation that was immediately approved by the Guardian Council. That is the authority that approves bills from Parliament. Now, it means that the Quds Force is 200 million euros richer when it comes to defending itself. That was a bill that was approved to boost its security and defense programs within the Revolutionary Guards. We've also heard from the foreign minister, who said that the United States has unleashed a series of events in the Middle East that they cannot go back from.
Also, many thanks indeed. Al Jazeera's Dorsa Jabari there, live in Tehran. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has refuted claims made by Iraq that Qasem Soleimani was on a diplomatic mission when he was killed in a US airstrike.
Is there any history that would indicate that it was remotely possible that this kind gentleman, this diplomat of great order, Qasem Soleimani, had traveled to Baghdad for the idea of conducting a peace mission?
That's what I was trying to
find
find
earlier.
earlier.
Wasn't true. We not only know the history, we know in that moment that was not true. Zarif is a propagandist of the First Order. And most of what you suggested in his text message or email or message that you laid out
did
there
he just say
was indeed
the First Order?
We've heard these same lies before. It's fundamentally false. He was not there on a diplomatic mission.
Al Jazeera's Alan Fisher was at that briefing at the State Department in Washington, and he's with us now live. Alan, what else did the Secretary of State have to say?
Well, it's certainly a packed briefing room as Mike Pompeo going public since the first time he did the rounds on the Sunday talk shows here in the United States, the big political shows, as he tried to give some sort of thinking behind the US operation. He was asked again about the intelligence. He said, look, everyone sat down with the president. The intelligence agencies presented what they knew. There was also input from teams in the field, as he suggested, the likes of Mike Pompeo putting together what he saw as feedback from his team, and then they took the decision. It's important to point out at this point that they say that they followed what the intelligence gave them, and this is from a president who so often in the past has criticised the intelligence services in the United States. Mike Pompeo himself, a former head of the CIA before he was promoted to Secretary of State. He also said that on Donald Trump's administration, Iran will never get a nuclear weapon, repeating the message that he said many times. He was asked as well about the legal implications, and he said, look, he didn't know about the specific instance in this case, but he said before, operations of this kind are taken more often than not before there is any feedback. It is run through the legal process, and he suggested that that's what happened this time, although couldn't absolutely confirm. Now, he's also asked too about Donald Trump saying that he was going to target Iranian cultural sites. You'll remember on Sunday, Donald Trump tweeted out saying that he had a list of 52 sites where he could possibly hit, including those attached to Iranian culture. And many people have pointed out that this is potentially a war crime. Mark Esper, who is the Defense Secretary, said that he would never do anything that would break international law. Mike Pompeo Pompeo was asked specifically about this on Sunday when he did the tour of those shows, and he said the president hadn't said that. Donald Trump then on Sunday evening doubled down, saying yes, he did say it and he meant it. He said that they can kill our people, talking about Americans, and they can't hit cultural sites. So Donald Trump very much thinking that this is something that he could do. But Mike Pompeo took an unusual line of defense, saying that it wasn't America that was threatening Iranian culture, it was the people in charge of that country.
Have no way of knowing how USTR
Let me tell you
will
who's
judge
done damage to
their applications. And Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that the article be entered into the record.
Without objection.
No.
He's pretty good. Pretty good. Alright, what's going on in the new Blackout?
Seriously, what ends up happening is I don't have a vehicle, I don't have a way to get to these guys, and then I'm stuck with people that are just so annoying, and without they'll keep
Looks like he might be having some streaming issues.
It doesn't. You leaving? That's why. I mean, did you see my face? I was like, you going out like that to school? You think it's a fashion show when you go.
Here we have our live Eagle Cam. Right there. Live Eagles. This guy's gaming's not that exciting. So we're gonna try something else. Scum Point 3.
Gonna get a lot of stuff done. I think that a lot of stuff will be implemented this year, especially. Gracier. See Gracier. Right, rag strips. We literally got everything, just need bag strips now, we can make it. I feel like the volume's gone down. Sean, how you doing, mate? Good to see you, dude. So. Why does my volume sound really low all of a sudden? They've got some audio issues with Scum right at the moment. Even when you go in a deathmatch, it sounds like there's a helicopter going off, but it's not. It's someone's gun, like, firing constantly. Right, so that axe should appear in a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Long stick, stone axe head. What am I missing? Oh, yeah. Yeah, obviously. The rope. There we go. That's better. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, right.
PUBG Mobile Live.
भाई क्या गंदा आवाज था ये कटर 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 वापस बंदा मार ना दे हमें भाई मेरे अगर आप स्ट्रीम देख रहे हो मारना मत यार सेल्फी
Welcome to the Dragons.
Yes. Delete. Yes. Delete.
This
I put a number after
beard
when they're
is
done.
epic.
And then, you know, I'd really keep like the highest number or the latest number.
Seems like a lot of options in this game.
19.
I've seen that game before. Who's got the newest
Alright, now I should be able to push these in. Too bad it wouldn't give me a message on that. Yeah, it didn't know that.
Got another backpack, which is actually really helpful. Painkillers. Okay, let's throw everything in the med kit.
Super exciting. Everybody's in their menus right now. It's so funny how like people all line up to the same time grid sometimes. It's like when you're listening to the radio and you keep switching the dial, and it's like commercials on every channel at the same time.
Good job, Avery.
That's what's happening right now.
I gotta go through and organize this one day.
And more with us. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough content right now. Macy's is closing more stores. These guys were pushing some junk change with the... Woo! That's always exciting. Ooh, lower stocks. What's up with the stock market right now? Stocks. Stock markets. Let's try stocks live. That would be cool. Nah, it's not cool. It's just one graph. That's... What about this guy? Wow. Super exciting charts. I'm just so excited about these stock charts, let me tell you. That might be some crucial information here, though. You never know. You never know what people are putting on. It might be like... Ooh, penny stocks. Who's live, though? I gotta get back. See, I gotta get back to YouTube. There's a way you can search for just live videos. I'll show you. So it's stocks. So first you do your search, then you filter the search, and you click live in the features section right there. Okay. Day trader rockstar. Let's check that person out. They're not talking though. We need some personality with our stocks. Hold up.
Award-winning tools of TD Ameritrade. Don't miss this unique opportunity.
They're just playing ads. Is there anyone that actually talks about the stock market? What's income switch? That's interesting. Hold on, let me raise the let me raise that up to 720 real quick. Work 5D. Is there any more information? Is anyone commenting? It's been live for 3 hours. Someone's just broadcasting information. It's nice how they remind you that they're not doing any audio up there in the very top area. It's just, all this means nothing to me. Work 10D, 30M, projection, pivots. I mean, I understand how the graph works, but Okay, here, this might be some stocks over here. They're watching this one, this one, this one. I've never seen this watch list section in the TCL 2000 or whatever it is. There's like some new features, and then we got some like right here, like some news or something. Oh, okay, so it's like large equity trade. 500,000 and okay at 4.0. Is that like code or something, or? I wish this person was like on here talking about what their graph means and everything, because it's like, seems like there's a lot of crucial info here. It's really, maybe they have like a firm and they can just live broadcast to all of them, so they can just have a laptop over there just keeping track or something like that. Day trading. Same thing over here. It's just a lot of information, not a lot of talking. BTC.
If you don't believe me, I'll show you.
Oh, here we go.
That's something like this. Right, so this is the 8-hour. You could even take that a little higher if you want. I'll hold off on the 12-hour till we get a little bit higher. But ultimately, just saying that, say, all right, look, what do I have? I put in a low. I put in a higher low. I put in a higher high. I'm trying to now fight, and you're going to want to hold this level in here. You need to give it some room here. But even on this 8-hour scale, if that's something you look at, I want it to hold that level. I'm going to have too many boxes here. I'm just showing you what I'm talking about. Ideally, you want to hold that level if you can. You can see that this level broke down. That's okay. That happens, right? Resist it, right? So you see that this was a resistance now. The resistance resisted. It held off things for a little while and then pushed on through. So same scenario. Now again, that should be a support resistance flip. So if it does visit back again, you want that to hold. And there's just multiple layers of that on multiple time frames. So that's the reason why I don't want it. Not to mention the fact that I just showed you a scenario where I could see that if we did push and close in this area, I see it's actually going up to this box. Okay. So that's my element of it. Again, you don't have to do things my way. Everyone has a different pattern, and it might make a lot of sense, actually. The things that you guys are saying can make perfect sense. You can have an opposite view. We can both be right? The time frames that I'm working on make a lot of sense. That's the thing that's intriguing about trading. If you're looking at right now trading, I don't know, 5-minute charts, or you're trading, high time frame, and you see something, maybe you see this as the mega resistance. I get that. And maybe you're doing some sort of DCA, dollar cost averaging. By the way, dollar cost averaging on a position different than adding to a loser. Like you guys will hear me say, don't ever add to a loser. What do I mean by that? Well, if I take a short here and I have a stop, if I took a short here, first and foremost, if I took my short here, my first stop is going to be that if there's a bullish engulfing, I'm out. I was wrong, right? And that's okay. It happens. Happens to the best of it. But that's the first set. But in the beginning, I might have a couple layers of stops, right? So my stop might be a swing over here. But also, if I get this level taken out, but it depends. I might call this the swing, which is fine. So let's say that level right there. The idea being this. What you don't do is you don't take a short and say, oh, I want to be short. And here's my stop. And then it goes beyond your stop, and you go, I still like it, I'm going to add some. And then it goes further, and you go, oh, I'm going to add some. And then it's up here, like, well, I liked it as a short here. I should love it up here. No. That's a terrible idea. That's how you get massive losses. For that, take your loss, right? Cover, regroup. If you don't add here, and here, maybe you can add this as a new trade there. That's fine. At least you close out your original position. But this idea, and a lot of people do it, I'm not trying to pick on anybody on Twitter, but look, man, Twitter is a rough place. Probably 98% BS on there. And you'll see it happen. The guy will say, oh, yeah, look, you're dumb not to short right here, right? And then it's up here, you're dumb not to short, and then it goes a little bit higher. And then it dumps, and he goes, look at me, I'm a genius, I've been calling for shorts. You called for short, it went up 10%. You kidding me? I mean, it's an absurd thought. And unfortunately, it works. People get tricked. It's one of the reasons I don't do it that much that often. It's nonsense. I don't need the clout. What I'd rather do, though, is help people try to make some money. for yourself, by the way. That's the best way to do it. If you can do it for yourself, because believe it or not, I can try to start live streaming my trades, and you'll see, by the way, that I lose trades and probably get mad when that happens. But the idea is that if I do it,
he's gonna live stream,
make money a little bit, that's fine. But then when you're on your own, you're gonna be staring at a screen saying, "Oh, I don't know what to do." It's not the way to learn. The way to learn is to say, "All right, I understand some of the elements, some of the techniques, etc." And I need to start doing it for myself. And it's not easy, right? But perseverance will get you there. You know, it's not rocket science either. It's not. I assure you.
It's not rocket appliances.
Anyone with a solid mindset, right? What do I mean by that? You know, how do I say that without insulting someone? You know, someone that is capable, a capable human being, can do it. Now, some people take 2 months. Some people take 2 years.
I believe in you.
But either way, if the guy 2 months or the guy 2 years perseveres through the many troubles you will have, that's the problem. Because you're going to fight yourself. Your mind is the enemy in trading. Your mind's telling you, what is your mind saying? You can't do this. Oh, that's wrong. Oh, that doesn't work. That only works half the time. No. Review your trade. Find your mistakes. That's a good thing about TA is that you can mess up a lot, but you should be able to go back and understand it, right? We could say, like, hey, again, let's say I like this very short. I could go back my TA and say, bullish engulfing candles, change, right? You've seen a change of scenery, basically, right?
Super cool.
So when you see that and the circumstances change a little bit, okay, let me now add, because basically you're getting your data as you're going along. So really, the puzzle changes with each little piece of data that you get, and suddenly what looked like one thing can change very quickly with one momentous candle. And of course, I'm giving a very dry example of it, but hopefully you guys understand.
We've got the Grand Ole Opry featuring special guests 99 neighbors, Eddie Fresco. I'm not gonna go through each one of these. We got Tool, Lizzo, Tame Impala. That's Lana Del Rey, Vampire Weekend. What? 7 Lions. We got Super Jam, Tenacious D. Man, Young the Giant. The 1975. Not Miley Cyrus. Oh man, Miley Cyrus. Wow, interesting lineup. I think last year's might have been better, but Tool is going to be huge on that Friday night. And Lizzo, obviously that's going to be exciting. So let's see what Germany has to say about Iran.
Asia and these stories. The student who became a sexual predator, the case of the rapist described as the most prolific in British legal history. And showing kindness to those gentle giants, an NGO in Thailand is doing away with the dark side of elephant tourism. All that and more coming up with my colleague Birash Banerjee in just a few moments. But first, we leave you with stunning pictures from Ice Festival in the Chinese city of Harbin. Thanks for watching.
Super cool. That's amazing, actually. Oh, isn't that the same? I wonder if the same company owns all these. Whoa. That would be so weird.
Éducation. Monde. Cộng đồng Pháp ngữ francophonie. Numérique. Climat. Paix. Hòa bình. Débat.
Démocratie.
Démocratie.
Igualdad, mujeres, hombres.
Égalité, femmes-hommes.
Développement. La Bonne année 2020.
Bonne année, I can't. Bonne année, Danibra, right? More weather. Alright, we're all gonna show you ads and weather at the same time. Let's check out what this guy's got going on. Sometimes he's got music. That'd be super cool. Let's find some music, man. It's like, hold up. Let's get on SoundCloud. Hold up. I remember my password. That's tough. I don't know my password for SoundCloud. Wait. I guess I'm not. Oh, I figured it out. Yeah, alright, sweet. We did it. We are in SoundCloud. I have had 0 plays in the last 24 hours. What are y'all thinking? Look, it's Joldian Roger II on SoundCloud. These songs are all. This is 7 years old. My top track is 7. Who wants to listen to a 7-year-old song? I actually like this one. Hold on. That one's actually really smooth. I don't like this part as much though. Oh, let's see, let's check this one out. See what we got going on. That one's a little more boring. Here we go.
Whoa. Whoa, what's happening? Whoa, it's the reporting from someone on Spaceship Earth. That coffee was a little slow brewing. How's everyone doing today, dude? And the CEO, we got Daryl, Scalit. What's happening, everyone? It's, Mahoney 16 came for a bowl cut and steak for some coffee. Just hopping into this thing. Hold on.
Alright, see you. Alright, Sam Day, new track. Let's check that out. that low. More by Sam Day. I love these headphones. Let's try this one. That's pretty cool. Let's try this one. Ooh, this is the one. This dude made a synth out of a Sega Genesis. It's kind of cool.
Gone ahead and added this MIDI merger, which is merging this and this together instead of sending the keyboards through it and causing it all to glitch out. I'll look into that and I'll worry about that later, as there are a lot of things I need to improve on this to make it even more awesome, including polyphonic mode. We'll talk about that later.
These guys are just live streaming the shop. That's cool. I mean, I don't know. Ooh, Mr. Bill.
Hey, what's up? Mr. Bill here. Before you listen to the podcast, I just wanted to plug some of my dates. I'm doing January 11th in Philadelphia, 17th in Montreal, 18th in Providence, 24th in Detroit, and 31st in Denver.
Mr. Bill.
And remember to rate, comment, and subscribe on whichever podcast app you're listening to. Thanks, and enjoy the talk.
The talk? I wanted to...
Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill podcast.
Hey, you're listening to the
Mr.
Mr.
Bill
Bill podcast.
podcast.
Hey, you are listening to the Mr. Bill podcast. Hey, you're listening to Mr. Bill podcast. Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill podcast.
Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill podcast.
Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill podcast. Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill podcast. Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill podcast. Hey, you're listening to the
Testicles. All right, welcome to the Mr. Bill podcast.
Hey.
It's episode 16 with Squanto.
Very cool. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, of course. Feels
That's
weird to be
great.
like, welcome to my podcast when we're like in your studio and in your house.
It's my podcast now, dog.
Yeah, you ask me some questions.
Oh, is that how we're starting?
Yeah.
How does it feel to be Mr. Bill?
That's pretty sick. All right, next question. I want to talk
So for real though, it looks like Facebook is like listening to or watching what I'm doing somehow, and the AI knew to pull. It says suggested for you, so they're like, "Ooh, here we'll pull up modular synths since you watched that last one." And I mean, how weird is that? Let's check out Love Laveska. That's my buddy. Let's see what he's talking about over here. Get ready. Dylan's got another track.
Okay, so here's the breakdown.
Skrill's got
Tick
some
tick 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 tick
Let me talk right.
tick 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 tick
And it's like-
tick 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 tick
When they try to get-
tick
talk
tick
right.
tick 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 tick
Let me talk right.
tick 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 tick
And it's like-
tick 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 tick
When they try to get them to talk. Work. Them to talk. Work. Work.
Yep. And so, like, say someone like the engineer or the producer might get more rights on like the wave file and like the selling of the wave.
He's still going. Mr. Bill kills it. Well, anyway, I better jump off here. You know, it's been fun. I'm gonna go see the new Star Wars movie, finally.
Joel's Internet Show. Joel's Internet Show.
Heavily eroded surfaces. So here at Abosir, what I've been showing is the fact that in general, this site is dynastic. Everything lines up north, south, east, and west. However, there are pre-dynastic elements here that are 23 degrees off north, south, east, and west. And that goes along with my theory about a massive cataclysm happening here in the Giza Plateau area 12,000 years ago. The major damage from this cataclysm seems to be here in what is more or less the center of the ancient land called Bu-Wizir, or the land of Osiris. And then when we go south and north, the damage becomes less and less. At one end you have Dashur with the bent pyramid and the red pyramid. The skin of the pyramids is sloughed off. And then the other direction, level of technology, because the stone is basalt or possibly even a harder siltstone of some kind. And that's not something, as you know by now, that the dynastic Egyptians had. So they clearly inherited ancient sites that appear to have been devastated by some cataclysmic activity. And that, of course, is recounted in my book, Aftershock.
what we can see here is clear marking of a circular giant saw. We can see from the pattern here that it's circling, and we can see that the lines also are all continuing in a circular, not a straight line. And when we talk about if we complete this circle, it's not going to be less than 8 meters, right?
Yeah.
Cannot be less than 8 meters wide.
It was at least 20 feet in diameter and 3/16 of an inch thick.
Yeah.
And it's penetrated the stone 2 millimeters per revolution, which is 500 times more efficient than what we have in the 21st century.
Yeah. So again, no scenes on the walls displayed any method of cutting the stones using a saw. We only understood this from the marking of the stone on the stone itself, from the marking of the tool on the surface of the stone. Also, if we want to know how thick that tool was, we can look here from the corner, and you can see part that is still curving back on the higher part here. You see that? That will tell us how thick this blade was, which was probably around 4 millimeter thick. That's huge to take this kind of machining, the heat, the scratches from circling. So we don't believe copper can be able to do this. We cannot see also the scenes, but we want to make more like experiments about this type of stone. And
another obvious question is, where does this stone come from? And according to our geologist Susan Moore, and according to the Geology Museum in Cairo, the Eastern Desert, a deposit at least 200 kilometers away. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe as you look at another ancient saw mark using some level of high technology. And come with us to Egypt in March.
And I'm going to use the
Being there
Gray's
1,000 times
Armory
more
in Cleveland, Ohio, as an example. Here we can see it in past times. Looks like they're blasting this tower off. And really, this thing seems to have been massive at one point. And I've featured it in past videos. It just seemed like some giant castle.
Okay, now we're heading
and
to
all that's left
Abu
now
Ghurab,
is this little
or Abu Ghurab,
section.
or Abu Jurab.
Looks like a little
which
corner.
Is a dynastic site.
And here we can have a
But
better
it also
look
has
in
some
modern
very curious
times of all that's
pre-dynastic
left.
elements. A lot
And what I
of
found
evidence
interesting
of lost
were these little
ancient high
sections
technology
on the
machining.
buildings that seem to jut outwards
So this
and
is
have like
Abu Ghurab.
a little base,
See, it looks like a desert
just always
wasteland.
seeming
Right
to
on
have
the
another
edge, though,
purpose
where there
than
is
just
life.
artistic
Here we
flares,
find these
like some sort
large
of piping,
bowl-like things that were
these
found
columns,
by Flinders Petrie,
and something that
in the
reminded
19th
me
century.
of it can be
See
seen
the
here
hole that is strategically
on this
located
factory.
right in the center
This really
of each
seeming
one,
like
but not at the
a
bottom. So
more
very
modern
curious.
factory.
These
And
unlikely
forgive
were
me,
done
not the
by
best
hand.
picture, I'm just
Much
showing the
more likely
thumbnail again
they were
to
done with some
this Urban
kind
Explorer
of
channel.
advanced technology.
But we
They were
can
not
see
found
coming
all
off the
together
sides
as you see
here
them now,
these
but they were
same
lined up, possibly
types
to be sent to
of
the Cairo Museum, but actually
vessels,
never made it there.
or I'm not even sure what to call them, but clearly popping out of the building
So you see, in terms
like
of
an
the
upside down
detail,
pyramid,
these
seeming to be
and these
perhaps
weird
designed
cog-like
to contain
knobs.
liquid
Again, we
and
see
handle
signs
the
of
pressure.
machine marks in
Not
them.
sure, and we could actually find
again,
out what
likely they were
the
done
purpose
using some
of this
form
is.
of high
But again,
technology.
reminding me of something much
They're also
older.
heavily weathered in places.
And this
It's
Gray's
most
Armory in
probable that they were
Cleveland
found
really having
buried
nothing to do
underground
with a
and,
power
were
plant
lined up like this.
or
Quite
a
strange.
steel factory, but
Then
exhibiting
as we
this
turn,
same
we see the ruins of a
factory-like
small pyramid that was
feature.
destroyed.
And really, it does seem like an
Some
old
strange
Tartarian
manner.
factory.
Also,
And in this particular
there's a slight
case,
curve
being
here
designated
where the at a very early time, 1837, as the Gray's Armory. In fact, the oldest building in Cleveland, or one of them. Here we can have a little look at the entrance. And pretty silly, actually. Something seeming very odd. And here I was having a little look on stolenhistory.org, an excellent website that looks into many of the things that we do. And we see a beautiful showcase of before and afters, and pretty much the destruction of much of this prior civilization. And I found it pretty astounding, the sheer number of fires. And again, going back as far as our history really allows us to. And again, where the horizontal and vertical surfaces meet, we also see some kind of tube drill evidence. And then we have an overview of the Hotep.
We've caught up with her again. She's still living in Nablus.
Hi Nablus. هون نابلس جديدة.
Her brother has long since been released, and Massar is now a master's student in business administration.
وهديك المنطقة هي البلد القديمة اللي كان فيها أكثر اجتياح وظروف وهيك. وورا هاي العمارة مدرستي.
But her school days are still vivid in her mind.
Nature. Russia has been quite quick
ما
and
عشنا
keen on
طفولة
filling
يعني إحنا صح
the
كنا
gaps
17
rather
سنة
than
بس.
just a vacuum, taking advantage of the mistakes of the United States. So again, I think the idea of the US leaving and there be a complete vacuum, the fight against ISIS halting, and no other actors stepping.
Mohammad Ali Shabani, also thank you for watching this special edition of Middle East Matters. Do stay tuned.
From North America to the southern tip of Patagonia, join us for a look at the latest political, economic, cultural and social news from the Americas.
Inside the Americas.
Good afternoon. The Secretary General will make some remarks, and unfortunately we will not take questions today.
Allow me, before doing that, to wish all...
Joel's Internet Show!